All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Sober Superstars. Today we've got Tron. Tron, do me a favor, real quick, give the audience a little bit of your background, what you do now, and just you in a nutshell for.
Yeah, I'm 57, been sober for 20 years now. Grew up in Boulder. After school, I worked corporate for about 10 years, and I came back here and started as a financial advisor in 2001. Got sober a couple of years after that, and that's what I'm still doing. I am an independent advisor. I work for myself. I've got 3 kids that are absolutely amazing, 27, 26, 21, and my wife and I together for 30 years.
You did the first 2 and then we're like, I need to take a break.
There is, that is kind of the funny thing because that's how it went. We had the 2 boys; they're 18 months apart,
Right.
and then we were living in Edwardsville, Illinois. We moved back here, and it was just not time,
Right.
to think about the third. And then we got the caboose knocked out, and it's been a true joy.
Nice,
That's for sure.
nice. Okay, so all boys?
Boys up top, and the caboose is a girl.
Oh, that's what a caboose is a girl?
No, it's the last. It's the last in
okay.
the line of 3.
I was like, what am I missing here?
No,
Do I know this terminology? Caboose
Yeah,
is
if
the
I'm
last
teaching-
train.
right.
The last car on a train, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, good.
If I'm teaching you slang,
just
there's trouble.
Let's make it. Yeah.
Right.
You're what? 11 years. You're a decade over me. So I mean,
Yeah.
that's a generation to it.
There you go.
There's a different
Well,
slang
you're
and
a lot
stuff like
cooler
that.
than I am. So
Hey. No, we're all cool in our own right? Like, so you've been
That's
doing
true.
the financial advising for how long now?
I mean, it's 24 years now.
24 years?
So, I've got my own practice. We're in Boulder. Another financial advisor with me, and some amazing staff members. And we just have fun every day and get it done and try and get people in a better spot. So,
Nice.
that's kind of one of the gifts of sobriety is that I'm able to do that. There's no doubt about it.
Nice. How many people would you say you've been able to take care of in your tenure?
We've got about 125 households
Nice.
that we're with of various degrees of wealth and all that. And that is I got an email from a client a couple of weeks ago, and we'd been together for like 15 years, but 10 years ago they had a really big decision to make, and they were hitching on it. I'm like, you can do it, just carry forward. And the email was that he sent to me last week was just this amazing sense of gratitude on that I'd given them the courage to move forward.
Nice.
And so a lot of people think the business is all about investments and all that. No, it's an intimate relationship with the clients to identify what's really important to them, what do they want, and try and push them to get that. And you know as well as I do that getting what you want takes a lot of fear. There's a lot of barriers to do that, and sometimes you need just a little bit of nudge, or sometimes 2-hand shove in the back to go get what you want. So sometimes we push and sometimes we shove
Right.
to try and get people where they need to go.
But it's actually better with a 2-hand push rather than a breakdown, right? Like a lot
Yeah.
of people actually have to go through a breakdown before they go through their breakthroughs.
Absolutely. The bottom is where life happens. I mean, that's where you decide, what you're going to do and who you're going to be.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, I was actually just talking about this in one of the sales training because I do sales training at Phil Long now.
Yeah.
Right. And we were talking about the situation where, it's like you want something, but you don't really go after it.
That's right.
And it's not because you don't want it, but it's because you've got a lot of blocks mentally
That's right.
that you're trying to get through. And then they talk about how in sales, like in your case, especially when you're selling your service, you're selling your products and stuff like
Absolutely.
that, we're supposed to be mind changers. But I
Yeah.
actually realized I don't think sales is about mind changing. I think it's more about breaking resistance blocks.
Yeah.
Like those fears that you're talking about, like the insecurities that people are sometimes going through to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So now you're saying you're 20 years
20 years.
separated.
Just picked up my chip like
Oh,
2 or
nice.
3 weeks ago.
Crap, I have mine upstairs. I have
Yeah.
an 18-year one.
There you go. Yeah. I try
20.
and carry it around a little bit. It helps just to kind of, a couple times a day, just give it a little rub and just a little bit of reminder and some reset.
Nice.
For sure.
Nice.
It's a daily occurrence. Sobriety is a daily occurrence for me. I got to think about it.
Oh, wow. So even at 20 years.
Yeah. So the pattern, I mean, I went to a lot of meetings early on.
Okay.
And then there's like, fairly large gap of time where I'd go to one meeting every 2 or 3 years. And now I'm back in the rooms, maybe 4 meetings a week or so. But I never missed, any of the program or, a little bit of the things that you need to do to maintain your sobriety. Still doing those every day. But a lot of the things that keep me sober are also the things that fulfill life. Expressing gratitude,
Gotcha.
making amends for, instead of leaving garbage all over the place, you're going back and talking to people that, hey, yesterday was not my best effort. I'm sorry for what I did yesterday.
I like that, being a garbage man.
Yeah, and you just got to go keep cleaning it up. You got it every day.
That's good.
Every day you're making mistakes and things that you could do better or should do better. And, I try and clear that off every day. And so, it's that daily gratitude. And I don't want to make it sound like I just walk around apologizing to everybody all day. But there is some things that you got to take some accountability. And to me, accountability and sobriety are hand in hand. Okay. And I don't know how you can live without accountability in your life, which comes from you. I'm not talking about you holding me accountable. I'm talking about me holding myself accountable.
I mean, it helps.
It helps
when you have somebody that holds you accountable too.
That's
but
right.
if you can't hold yourself accountable, I mean, you're going to lie to the person that's trying to hold you accountable anyway. Right.
I think if you think about like who holds me accountable, and let's skip the clients and staff, and people around me. Let's think about like my children hold me accountable.
Nice.
Like, hey, Dad, what's up? Here, or my wife holding me accountable, and it's not so much of them necessarily holding me accountable. It's a little bit of them expressing how they want me to show up for them that day.
And they're good at communicating this?
Nah, let's be careful.
I mean,
only certain miracles a day. No, I'm not going to sit and try and fudge that we sit down at the dinner table every night and have these really in-depth, meaningful conversations. That would be living a dishonest life.
Right.
But I think there's some time that the kids always, there's a little bit of like, if I ask you to breakfast, we're gonna talk about, and it doesn't necessarily mean bad, but just something like that's on my mind about, it's time for me to do the dad thing. This is how, maybe you want to consider bringing this into your life, or, this is how relationships work, or, sometimes they have, failures in their life, and a little bit of sit down. I'm like, okay, great. I'm glad that you fell down and bloodied your lip. Let's figure out what do you stand up and how are we going to do this thing?
John, that's so similar to me.
Yeah.
My wife is like, anytime the kid falls, it's like, ah! Anytime the kid falls, good job.
Yeah,
nice job.
It is.
You got blood?
Yeah. And I don't think it necessarily fits with sobriety, but I think one of the secrets of life is one, try and get as many mistakes out of the way as quickly as possible.
Yeah, we were talking about that just in this intro for this podcast.
Absolutely. And then, a lot of it is just, all right, how are you going to get up? What was the lessons learned out of that? And, can you develop the skills to avoid that again? In whatever aspect that is.
Right. But so that's you holding them accountable, though.
Yeah.
Like, how would you say that they're actually communicating with you on how they could hold you accountable? Or is it the fact that, you've got a lot more clarity and awareness to be able to realize the certain areas that you're creating dissonance with them?
I think it's a little bit more on the intuitive side.
Gotcha.
I think it's a little bit of, I mean, if we really look at it, it's the kids aren't sitting at the table and being like, Dad, you disappointed me yesterday. We agreed that we're going to do this and you didn't hold up your end of the bargain.
I mean, that would be phenomenal if one of your kids actually came up and was like, hey, Pops.
Actually, that's probably like a good measurement of the successful relationship.
Right.
Is that I would welcome that.
Without being a jerk?
Without being a jerk,
okay,
right,
good.
Well, the message is the message, regardless of how it gets delivered, right?
Right. Right.
I mean, some of the best feedback that I've ever received in my life, the guy was really pissed at,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
but you're like, okay, at the core of it,
Right.
what did I really do?
Mm-hmm.
And so, a little bit of just kind of understanding the nuances of the kid of like, well, wait, my behavior wasn't right there. And I definitely have had where I've come into the room and been like, listen, what I did yesterday wasn't appropriate, and I apologize. That's not the way that I should behave. So I do think there is some of the if we're talking about a little bit of the family of, I think it's really powerful for when I show vulnerabilities within the family, and I think that's some of the struggle of being a father and a husband and all the pressures. You got to be perfect. You got to be strong every day. Your lip can never quiver. But I think the real power of showing that to your children of like, you gotta, if you're not going to ask for help and you're not going to, come back and apologize to your kids for something that you did, you're just
Sending
you're
the
just
wrong
sending
message.
it. Yeah, you're sending it, but you're sending it generationally, and we, and we know this that addiction is oftentimes generational and oftentimes family, and one of the things that I would like is if my kids do need to get sober or have an addiction, I hope they do it a little sooner than I did.
How old were you? Wait,
I was
20 years?
34. I was 37.
Oh, wow.
57 minus 20. It takes a little
Yep,
bit to
a
do the
little
math.
bit. That was an easy one.
But giving them the chance and that safety to come in and be like, hey, I need help. And I think the societal pressures that we put on fathers in a lot of ways is not to ask for help. You need to muscle your way through this problem.
Yeah, that's pretty much been like my.
Yeah, you just got to toughen up.
For so long. It was like
wouldn't
strap
have
up your bootstraps
right.
and get going and crush it. And God actually hit me really hard in 21 with that.
There you go.
And gave me the biggest lesson of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, I went through one of the deepest, darkest depressions that I've been in since I was an addict. And I'm 18 years sober now. That was 15 years sober in 2021 when this happened. And I mean, I went from super darkness to super happy, like working through it, working, and finally found joy and happiness. And in 21, I got COVID, was working in life insurance, which just didn't resonate with me.
Okay, yeah.
And something snapped in my brain, and I went through a deep, dark depression, and I didn't really understand it at first. I've dug through it now and figured it out, but when I was going through the deep, dark depression, the only thing that God was literally showing me or sharing with me was the fact that, listen, I need to teach you compassion. Yeah. Because you have no compassion for anybody that's struggling with any kind of mental illness or anything like that. Your response is strap up your boots and get going. Yeah. And there's going to be times where you can't. And guess what? During that year, I couldn't. Yeah. I mean, I didn't even want to get up and make my bed. Yeah, that's how effed up it was. But thank goodness I didn't
really
actually.
Hard. I mean, those are dark days, and I do feel like there's a little bit of perception that if you just get sober, right, that everything's unicorns and rainbows, and it's not. It is not at all. Your story is a great example of that. I've got similar stories at various different times. I mean, my biggest struggles in life have taken place in sobriety. And so it allows me to show up.
I need a timeout. What was your drug of choice?
I was straight alcohol.
Straight alcohol.
That's it.
So how bad did it get? I know you said on the thing your story might be a little bit vanilla, but I don't think anybody's story is ever vanilla, right? Well, I always think there's a beautiful story underneath it through all the struggle, the pain, the trial, the tribulations. Yeah. Always think everybody has an amazing story there. But you said alcohol. How long were you addicted to alcohol?
Well, I remember at 13.
At 13, nice time to start.
Not bad,
Yeah.
At 13, my buddy's older sister bought us a fifth of Southern Comfort and some peppermint schnapps, a 13-year-old's dream. And it was obviously in Boulder, and that was way too much for us. And we ended up in one of my middle school, right? Middle school friends' backyards, whose parents then found us because we're crawling around we can't even walk at this point. and we're crossing J Road at 2 a.m, sort of thing. And so, her parents come down. They're like, "Oh wow, this is kind of a mess here," and called my buddy's parents, and they sent the older brother to come pick us up. And he drove me home.
Okay.
And he started giving me life advice. And one of them was, don't worry, in a week, everybody will forget this.
Oof.
Right? Okay. I'm glad you reacted that way, because at the time it felt really comforting. Like,
that's the best advice
I'm just
ever.
going to be in jail for a week,
Right.
sort of thing. And then I'll really forget about it. And in a lot of ways it was true. Now, the actual truth of the story is that he did die from his addictions.
Wow.
So that was the piece where I'm looking, and he was somebody that you looked up to. He was an athlete and a stud, and he dated them.
So the badass dude that everybody, exactly. Yeah. I get it.
And, that advice really kind of, I now realize how horrible, that was.
Mm-hmm.
But then, my 16th birthday, I had asked this girl out. I'm going to get to the answer a little bit, but there's a couple stories that need to come out.
Cool.
16th birthday, I go to dinner with my parents. I come home, and I had asked this girl out that I've been chasing for a long time. And on the door is a note. And I go up there and I read it, and she's like, "Hey, Tron, happy birthday, but I decided to go out with Chip tonight." Right? And you're just like, "Oh, shit."
How'd that turn out?
I was wearing my, anyways. And so, got my license earlier that day, because that's what you did when you're 16. So I drove over to the hill, walked into Bova's, bought a 6-pack of 3.2 Henry Weinhardts, and then walked over to the park, drank a 6-pack on my 16th birthday in the park by myself, and then drove home, right? Because how else would you get home, right? And, I knew that I was an alcoholic earlier on. I mean, I just knew. But I didn't know what to do. What do you do with it? What do you do with it? And, I drank really heavy in high school, probably 5 days a week or so. And then college, probably to a level of slur, probably 3-4 times a week. I mean, it was just bad.
Oh, wow.
But the thing of it is that I was getting by. I was graduated.
So from an outward sense of functioning.
That's right. And I think that's what held me back from really evaluating, is that from an outward sense, everything looked pretty together.
Right.
In a lot of ways. And then things started getting really bad. Corporate wise, I was an accountant, right? And there was
were you handling the numbers well?
Yeah, I was handling the numbers well. So this is how well I handled them. Is I'm the last guy who did closing. So you close the books,
right? And
so everybody, I had a staff of 13 at that time, and they would do their work, and then it would all kind of pile into my desk, and then I had to work it from there. And so I would just basically fretter the day away, honestly, just the way it went. And then everybody left at 5. I went and got dinner, got liquored up, and then would come back to work, and then work from, drunk 6:30 to 11. And basically put my head down, put the blinders on, and plow through, probably 20 hours of work in this 5-hour period. And I was just able to get the right level of drunkenness that I was really focused, which I know sounds odd.
No, I get it.
You get it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And many people watching this.
Right.
And that's just the cycle of how it ran.
But the truth of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, if we talk about truth, probably everybody in the office knew
right
what was going on.
So from the outside looking in, they were actually like.
Yeah, that's the piece that sobriety has kind of made me realize, is that I was keeping this a secret, but everybody knew. And so that was just fallacy on my part, that I had this habit that was hidden. And then, we moved back here. I became a financial advisor, and now I'm moving my, because being drunk as a company controller accountant is not a long-term success path.
No.
So then, I come back here and become a financial advisor, and now the lifestyle and the alcohol come together right? You know, because I'm supposed to be the fun guy, let's go out and get a couple beers and I'll tell you, and that sort of thing. And the wheels just really came off. Nobody really wanted to work with me. I'm doing business in my own hometown. So there should be plenty of people that are like,
Right.
I remember that, People don't want to really work with me. I can't really figure out what's going on. And at that time, I was sober during the day. I wasn't that much of a day drinker. But I'd come home in the garage, have 2 or 3 beers in the garage before going home, and then grab one from the fridge and walk in like it was my first.
So there was your start. Yeah. Nice.
And then I would just kind of sit around the house and wait till my wife went to bed. And then I'd go hit 3 fingers of bourbon, and coast off to the evening. And so I was just basically treading water for a decade there.
So just a poisonous cycle over and over and over.
Just a poisonous cycle over and over. And I didn't understand why I wasn't successful. I wasn't really maintaining any relationships.
So what was the light bulb? What was the impact point?
Well, I hosted a party one night, a work function.
You didn't end up dancing on the table naked, did you?
It was close. I had a G-string on, so that, we held it together.
The image, stop.
Yeah.
Okay, go.
But, I ended up at Abo's on the Hill at 2 a.m.
Okay.
And I was with 3 other people, and they all got picked up for rides. And they're like, dude, you cannot drive home. So off they went, and we know the end of this, then 10 minutes later, I walked out and drove home. And I got into bed, how
you made it home though.
Oh yeah, I made it home.
Oh.
Where you're pulling the covers in and you're trying to slide into bed without waking anybody up. And my wife was not sleeping. And she was basically like, "What are you doing? Like what are you doing?" She's like, "You've got 3 kids and
How long were you married at this point? And how old were you?
10 years.
How old were your kids at this point?
20 or 6, 7, and basically newborn.
Gotcha. So she's saying, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, and that was my last night. One more to go, and I got up the next morning and left the house at 6 a.m, right? So I'm still probably drunk that morning, and called into Boulder Central. Barb answered the phone, and there's a meeting at 7. So Barb was such a chain smoker that 10 minutes after she stopped smoking, smoke was still coming out of her lungs, sort of thing. But anyways, so I went to a meeting that morning, and with the intention of just trying to get the heat off. Oh. Again, a week from now, everybody will forget about it, right?
Right. Oh man, back to that.
And I sat in there, but I knew that it was trouble. I was out of money. Was now, the credit cards were kind of maxed out. I was having trouble making mortgage. I didn't see a way out. I was concerned that my wife was going to leave me, so it was closing in. And I sat in that meeting with the intention of just trying to get the heat off for a week so I could come up with a strategy. And I sat and cried in that meeting. And 2 guys came up afterwards, and they're like, "You want to go to breakfast?" I'm like, "Yeah, I really do." And I couldn't believe everything they were saying was like out of my own mind. And I knew that was my day.
Wow.
I did drink about 4 days later, and then August 23rd, 2004, that was the end. So yeah, I mean, it was. That was my bottom. It was a financial bottom. It was a fear of losing the family bottom. But mostly it was I wasn't who I wanted to be. I was really nobody. I was nobody. I wasn't doing anything well. Everything that I touched was just kind of semi-tarnished. And so I think the real bottom was more of I saw so much potential in me. I saw a skill set. I saw me bringing happiness to people, and I was doing none of that. And that's really where sobriety became important to me.
So then That's fantabulous, but what was the journey like? What was like the first few months like? What was
Yeah.
how did the whole transition go to where you are now, living, a very
Yeah.
phenomenal life, got a great family, got a great business.
Yeah. I mean, it just, um, honestly, I gave it over to God
Nice.
and just listened to people that had what I wanted.
Mm.
And I didn't listen to the chorus. I didn't listen to the 50 people that were in meetings.
Right.
Okay. I
Got
listened.
it.
There was like 3 or 4 people in there that I'm like, I want that. And chose one of them as my sponsor. But then I listened to them. And whatever they told me is what I did. I didn't ask, are you sure? I didn't question.
You didn't fight it.
I didn't fight.
So we're talking a full surrender.
Surrender to win. Surrender to win, my brother.
Ooh, I've never phrased surrender has been my key to freedom, right? But I've never actually phrased it in a way that said surrender to win. But that's literally been every trajectory point of my life.
Yeah.
Now,
Right?
since sobriety, it's been surrender to win. I mean, I had a older cousin, his name was Rel, who pretty much discipled me and helped me through my whole transition. And I mean, we butt heads so much. It was so ridiculous. Like I couldn't even stand him. Just the way he talked sometimes really made me mad. But I needed to surrender. Like anything he said at this point, I really needed to surrender. He was discipling me. He was taking the time to actually help me grow. But everything he actually taught me and in my surrender was what helped me win.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Yeah. Surrender to win. And then there was a guy that I really respected in the rooms. He just said, I just stopped fighting. And when the waiter brings you the wrong menu, you just fine. The airplane is late, fine. And just let that go. Because I think a lot of us in addiction, we're always fighting for respect in one way or another. We just get into these ridiculous spats and fights, and you don't respect me, you don't do this and that. And one, you don't really earn it because you're a mess. But the other thing is that you just let that go. And that that's the second point of the surrender to win. 90 meetings in 90 days. That's another one there. And then I didn't really start doing the steps until probably about 6 months.
Oh wow! So you didn't even start the steps. You were just
I didn't, because I didn't. There was something that told me inside that I wasn't ready to do the real work.
Ah, gotcha.
That it was. I could do the steps, but they were going to be kind of faked and half. I wasn't ready to be the level of honesty that's required to do the steps.
You know what's amazing though? The fact that you kept showing up.
I had to. I
regardless
wanted it.
When you're not ready, right? Like for anybody out there, man, just show up.
Just show up.
Showing up is literally such a huge step, especially for people that are like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can handle this. I don't know if I can make it through this. Just show up. Just show up. No expectations, no nothing. Just show up. Yeah. It really does make a world of difference.
It does. And there's some phrases in there, that let us love you until you love yourself. And that is the showing up piece. And it's amazing the community of just a quick hug or a sincere hello that just kind of gets you through the day a little bit and just keeps it together one more day, because the miracle's coming. The phrase kind of goes, don't quit before the miracle happens.
Right.
But the miracle is coming, and you don't know when. You don't get to schedule when it arrives, but it's not on the outside.
No.
The life that I was living, the miracle was never showing up. It wasn't until I showed up in my life, I surrendered to win, that whatever clock I was being put on for my miracle to arrive, it started running. And that's the piece. I do live. The people around me are sometimes surprised when we have real conversations of my belief and understanding of God. And there is nobody that could ever bring me the sobriety except for God. And
Amen.
I couldn't do for myself what God could do for me. And it wasn't until I surrendered and really, sometimes I feel like these conversations end up being a little glossy. I worked so fucking hard on those steps that, in a sense, this is a dangerous word, but I was entitled to sobriety with the amount of work that I put into it. That if somebody was going to get sobriety, I wanted it to be me because I worked really hard to get it. And I think that's what happens sometimes when you do the steps and you're not really fully engaged and you're still kind of facading your way through that. You don't get the reward for it because you just didn't get stripped raw. And I will never forget sitting in my sponsor's patio with a wood burning stove. We were freezing in the middle of winter. And just, I laid it all out. And whatever he asked, I answered in just as honestly as I truly understood. You know, I think honesty is actually a subjective piece that you can be 100. I'm 100% honest with you today, but maybe tomorrow I'll know myself a little bit better and realize that I wasn't quite honest with you today.
That's funny. That's
because
a good point.
There's a new.
I've been there.
You know, right. The more you know about yourself and the more work that you've done and the more of how you understand who you are, honesty becomes new layers and gets deeper, and the ability to be honest becomes more comfortable. So it's a point, you know, because I think it's a fairly safe statement that most people with addiction are living outside of honesty.
Oh gosh, yeah. There's too many things to hide.
There's too many things to hide.
So many skeletons in the closet.
Skeletons and facades and all that.
Right. The masks, everything.
All
oh
of
my
it.
goodness.
And I'm not sitting here telling you that I'm mask free. That's foolish. But I can sit here and tell you I don't know what the mask is that I'm wearing today.
Right.
Maybe tomorrow I'll do a little bit of work and realize, oh, that's the mask I was wearing yesterday.
Whether it's a little bit of posturing, whether it's a
Yeah.
little bit of position. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I'm interjecting in my story a little bit to try and get some you know, whatever.
Right.
Whatever that is. And that's not necessarily wrong. Living in a dishonest spot, I don't think is the problem. The problem is not recognizing it later and being like, you know, I thought I was being honest, but really I was posturing and, you know, using your term a little bit. And now tomorrow I'll sit back and be like, you know, I was kind of posturing a little bit. My ego was taking over at
Right.
that point. And I can sit and think, well, why did I do that? What was the benefit of that? How did that help my sobriety? How did that help the people that are important to me in my life? And
Or how
all
does
those
it
sort
help
of things.
anybody that's actually listening or
If
watching?
anybody's-
Yep.
Yeah, you know, all those sort of things. And on that, the reason that I'm here today, if anybody benefits from this, good on you. But I'll be real clear that I'm here today for me.
Ooh.
I'm here because you're forcing me to walk through my story. You're forcing me which I volunteered for.
Right.
Can I be honest? Like this time we're spending together is an honesty test.
Okay, good.
And tomorrow, or maybe when I watch this, I'll say, did I pass? Was I honest? Was I vulnerable? Did I hide things that were in there? And so, no, this today is an important day. I feel this is an important day for my sobriety. That I'm going to get stronger or weaker out of this. And that will depend on when I look back and evaluate the level of honesty that I brought to today, whether I got closer or stronger in my sobriety or weaker. And we'll find out.
Truth be told, if you look back at it and analyze it for a better purpose, it'll always be for stronger.
You know,
It'll
that's
always be for stronger, right? Like what you said when you said like dealing with people and the awareness of whether or not they're putting on a facade or anything like that. Yeah, the bad part is when they don't recognize that they're doing it.
That's
The
it.
even worse part is when they know they're doing it and choose to continue doing it.
Yeah.
That's when it
That's the
starts
trouble.
cycling into evil.
Yeah.
And it gets really bad, and people start spiraling out
Mhm.
because of that. I mean,
Yeah.
look, we all get awareness points. We are all given that
Yeah.
so that we can do something about it.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of times we just get paralyzed, or we make excuses, or we just don't give a fuck enough.
Right.
And then wonder why our lives are spiraling so deep down.
Yeah.
I mean, you said a couple things in there, man. The whole I put in so much fucking work that I'm entitled to this sobriety.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever fucking heard anybody say that
Yeah.
shit ever.
And I'm
That's
fully
insane. That's
aware,
awesome, though.
that anytime you use the word entitlement
No,
is
but that's
really
so
a problem
awesome.
with addiction. But I really felt like I knew that I had to do the work to where there wasn't any choice for me to succeed.
But right, like, so there's entitlement from laziness. That's problematic.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
But if you put in the work and really put in the work, yes, I would say that you could definitely be entitled to a result if you're willing to do the
If
work.
you do the
right?
work.
Like you,
Really, how often does somebody do so in regard, whether that's professionally or relationship wise or addiction wise? You know, the probability of failure is really pretty small when you do the required work. You do the extra.
right?
You know, whether that's helping people with cars or your relationships around you. If you do the work, you're gonna get rewarded. I mean, there's very few unfulfilled promises on folks that did the work.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. No matter what, if you do the work, right? Now, depends on how big or grandiose your goals may be, right? But if you actually even do the work in those aspects, you could achieve anything. I mean, it's
a lot of, I mean, you know, if I were to practice 80 hours a week playing basketball, I was never going to the NBA.
right.
So
Right. So yeah, there are some.
There's some caveats on that, you know, but no, on the things that I have in my life, I've received a lot of tailwinds and a lot of help along the way. Very clear about that. And then I've taken the gifts that were given to me and I've worked them really hard to get what's important to me and what I want.
Right. And that's awesome. And the thing is, though, when you just said right there, right, like a lot of people take a look at that as being a barometer. Like if somebody really wanted to play basketball and absolutely love basketball, play 80 hours a week and you'll be great at it.
Yeah.
You might not be NBA, but that's an outside standard.
Yeah.
Or some sort of goal and dream. And that's just, that doesn't give you the joy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
That's not the part that actually gives you the joy. The doing it, the putting into work, and the outcomes of that work. You know what I mean? Practice makes great progress.
Yeah. I mean, on that, no one ever outworked MJ or Kobe.
Right.
Right? You know, nobody outworked those guys. They were the most talented to begin with, and then they worked harder than anybody else.
Yeah.
And
it's not like we were talented. Let's just lay on our laurels.
Yeah. I mean, you see that. You see that in people all the time that are like, wow, if that guy got organized, he would crush me. Like if he worked hard or they worked hard, they would absolutely crush.
Well, Kobe actually said that about Shaq.
Okay. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yes,
No,
Kobe said
right.
that exactly about Shaq.
Right.
He
That's
would
right.
have dominated everything.
It was something like that.
If Shaq actually
if Shaq
put into
worked,
work.
I would have had 5 rings.
Yeah.
I think it was something like that, right? Well, that's true. I mean, you know, and to me, that's actually a great example of in the sense of I saw potential like that in me, and I got tired of not using it. And I, in a sense, I got sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Right.
And my 20 years of sobriety has had the hardest times in my life, but as a whole, it's been a lot easier than if I was still in active addiction. You know, it just gets easier, and it gave me a chance to use some of that potential. I'm not, probably not up to my full potential, but I've gotten enough of it that I feel blessed and comfortable with what I do.
Nice.
So yeah.
Nice. So you're living a fulfilled life.
I am.
You think that would have happened if you were still?
No. I mean, I lived 37 years of unfulfilled. I mean, I never, no, I never was. I mean, I never was. It was always, whatever I was doing, it was like, well, I need to do this. I need to achieve this. I need to do this. I need to do that. And I was always on to the next thing. I was never satisfied. And the point of it is today I'm satisfied.
Oh, nice.
There's still things that I want. There's still things that I'm working towards. But when I sit back at the end of the day, laying in bed, kind of running through the day, I feel satisfied of where I am and what I've done. I don't, that phrase of, well, as soon as I have a little bit more money, I'll be happy.
Right.
As soon as I be able to run a marathon, I'll be happy. There's no conditions in my life for my happiness anymore. I have that.
Nice.
It's, it's something you got to maintain. I mean, it's a choice to be happy, every day, but it doesn't come with conditions over, as soon as I achieve this, then I'll be happy. That's hard. I mean, waking up in the morning going, I'm not going to be happy today because I haven't achieved what I'm after.
That would suck.
That's a long.
That would suck.
Hopefully you don't live to 90 because that's 90 years of just, so hard. And I know that there's people out there feeling that and living that. And, I hope you find your solution and that. So it's hard.
So if you could boil it down, I mean, anybody struggling with addiction right now, whether it's alcohol or whether it's meth, heroin, or any of the drugs right now, especially this crazy fentanyl, man.
That is so hard.
That's just, thank goodness I wasn't around for that.
Yeah.
I'd be dead. Like, I would have been dead.
Yeah, for
with
sure.
the amount that I did of meth and stuff like that, I'd just be dead if I even messed around with that. But do you have a message of what you could say were your keys to freedom? Let's just say, like, what really, it sounds so far like you had surrender, and then you had put into work. Would you say those two are pretty much?
I think those are the big ones. The other item out there is, I'm going to get sober for my kids. I'm going to get sober for my wife. Nope, it doesn't work that way. And, another phrase, the hard part, I think, of sobriety that creates a barrier is that you're literally taking your current addiction life and setting that across. And that's the new play pens and new play friends. And so all the habits that I had to get new friends. I had to get new routines. There's places that I don't go anymore. All that changed.
Oh, wow.
And it's really scary. I mean, you're setting down what you think is, 6 months before I got sober, you had me write down a list of what was important to me and who was important to me. I write out that list. 6 months later in sobriety, I'm literally taking that list and setting it all down with no list.
Oh, wow.
And so then there's that's the hard part, is setting down your current things that are important, that you think are important. They're actually your barriers to getting sobriety, and living in that, I don't have anything important in my life today other than being sober. And that's super scary. And for me, it was being more scared of drinking than I was scared of change. And because there's a tremendous amount of change. And the phrase of the same man will drink again, that's 100% true. And I knew that I had to be a brand new person, to where if I saw somebody when I was drinking, they wouldn't recognize my life today. And so that there's that crossover of setting everything down that's important, but you not picking up anything that's important because it takes time. It takes time to build new friendships and relationships and new routines and new hobbies and all that. So that's that fear piece, and addressing the fear piece. You got to do the work and surrender to win, and then just don't quit.
How worth it was it?
It was
to do the work.
I can't tell you. I cannot express the gratitude that I have. I have the life that I want. This is the life that I want. And it's only available to me in sobriety. And when I think about drink, because I want to go to a cocktail party and just have a little drink. No. I see myself not stopping at one. That addiction is still there. And so it's a little bit of, I have to keep on my sobriety every day. There's an old saying that, you better do the work inside these rooms because your addiction is outside doing push-ups. And I think that's true.
Wow.
And so it was
your
the level.
addiction is outside doing push-ups.
Your
Getting ready
addiction's,
for you.
yeah, it's common. And I do see it's a progressive disease. And now I got to figure out how to run faster than the addiction every day. I got to get a little bit faster and a little bit better.
What are your consistent daily actions that you would say you put into effort? What are your consistent daily activities and actions in your life that makes you the best version of you?
Yeah, I think it's at the end of the day. Some people would call it 10th step, but it's the end of the day, kind of sitting quietly, whether that's in bed, and it's a little bit of just reviewing the day. So I don't have this big structured. Some people have journals and awesome. Get a journal. I think that's a great idea. What worked for me was just kind of laying in bed thinking about a little bit of the strife that I had in the day. The conversation that I had with somebody that didn't go well. And really what has helped me on that is almost like sitting outside my body, watching that conversation as a third party, which is hard, and being, what was my part in that disagreement? Or what was my part in, somebody who's really irritated with me? Well, I was only 5 minutes late. I was only 5 minutes late. What's the big deal? Okay, well, if I was on time, and I know this is a little bit of a flippant example, but if I was on time, how would that have changed that?
Yep.
Okay, and so I've got my part in that. I've got to take, now we're back to the accountability piece.
Yeah, ownership.
Full ownership. The reason that discussion was unfortunate for both of us, part of that was me. The energy that I brought to it, maybe the lateness, or maybe I said something offensive. That's possible.
Yeah,
I didn't mean it to be, but it was.
Right. Even being late a little bit might make somebody feel like you didn't value them.
That's right.
Or their time or anything
That's
like
right.
that. So taking full ownership.
That's absolutely right.
Is
And a little,
huge.
but there's that. It's majority ownership, accountability, the ownership, but then it's also then the grace to forgive myself. Yep. I was late there was that meeting that I was late to yesterday that I was unprepared for. Yes, I did that. I'm accountable to that. I left that meeting and then sat down at the desk and tried to kind of get my feet back under me, get some of the things done that I should have done and that sort of thing. So at the end of the day, I can kind of look at it and be like, yep, I made a mistake. I rectified it as best I could. There's some things that you can't take back. There's some things that you can't fix, but do the best of that. And then give yourself the grace to just be like, it's okay. You're going to do better tomorrow. And believe that. You're not letting the grace piece is really dangerous because you show up sloppy and unattended and not prepared, and that's not okay. And so you don't give yourself the grace for that to be okay.
Yeah.
You give yourself the grace after you've kind of done what you can to fix that situation. And then you get to give yourself, in my mind, give yourself the grace. God has already given you the grace.
Right.
But the problem is when I don't give myself grace. I run into trouble when I don't hold myself accountable. I make mistakes and don't try and repair them, and then not give myself grace. That's kind of the triple whammy of the things. You cause the problems, you don't fix the problems, and then you let yourself off the hook for that. No.
And all of that could actually be encompassed in the surrender to win factor.
It is surrender to win. So I don't take when I make every day I make mistakes, right? Maybe cut somebody off in traffic, or show up to an appointment
That's not a mistake. You did it on purpose.
Yeah, well, if I see the Budokai,
what are you driving?
Yeah, when I see the Budokai symbol on the back of the car.
You still see them out there?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
I mean,
awesome.
it's one of the great things. That's one of the subtle touches of sobriety. Is that, you and I were in a leads group together.
Right.
And so I knew you through there, but we also have a connection through the addiction piece.
Right.
And so it is when I do see that symbol on the back of cars every once in a while, it's just a little piece of that sobriety piece. Somebody out, I know that you're out working your program today, so I need to work that's a reminder to work my own program.
Nice.
So thank you. I know when you do that symbol, you're not thinking about my sobriety, but you are. You are important.
Actually,
You're
I am.
You are. Okay.
So the whole concept behind that symbol is to ignite inspiration into other people.
That's working.
Yeah, that's been the mission. So if you've got final words, what would you like to say to everybody out there that's listening? Or anybody, if it's just one?
It's progress, not perfection. I will never be perfect. I can't think of anything more boring in life than being perfect. It's just... I feel that what the skill set that I've built is to be able to look at myself, evaluate my actions, and decide whether I can do better or not. And then kind of try and follow through that. So every day I'm trying to get a little bit stronger in my sobriety than I was today. And that is a physical action. It is not a wish. It is not a hope. It's an activity.
Nice.
It is, doing mental exercises, doing sometimes physical exercises to let the brain breathe a little bit. And it is a daily perpetual activity. But I'm alive. I'm grateful. I live the life that I want to live. People are happy to see me.
That's
right?
awesome.
Right. Just think about when you walk through Costco, when you see somebody and you're like, oh no. And you go the other way. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the other.
I don't have those anymore. I'm good.
Oh, there's Tron and Costco. I got to go the other way. I don't want to be that guy.
Nice.
So,
well,
yeah,
it's obvious you're not. So that's really amazing, man. It's great to see you. It's been
Great
how
to see
long
you.
now? So it's been quite a while since I've
Yeah.
last seen you. So glad to hear you're doing amazing. And
Thank you.
for anybody out there that is listening, again, if you know anybody that would find any kind of value, struggling with addiction, anybody that's just struggling in life, period, please share them. Please share this. Share them. Go figure. Please tag them on this and share this video, and sending prayers out there for anybody else that's going through some rough times. And this has been another episode with Tron.
Thank you very much. It means a lot to me. Thank you.